Hi gorgeous! Happy Frugal Friday to you. If you're new to the channel, first I'd like to say welcome to you. I make videos like this every Friday focusing on drugstore products, so please subscribe to be notified of new videos in the future. Today's video is a battle of the drugstore setting powders. So I have put 10 from the top brands from the drugstore to the test. I'll be showing you what they look like after wearing them for a straight 8 hours, giving you my review on how the application was and what I think about the powder overall. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone that this is an opinion-based video based on my experiences with these products. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. And you're always welcome to share your experiences with any of the products that I'm talking about, but I just want to put that up front. Also, for reference, I have an oily complexion and I live here in Florida, so great testing grounds for drugstore powders. I also want to mention the ingredient silica, because when I've talked about powders in the past, one of the most popular questions I've received is, does this powder create flashback? And silica is the ingredient that will do that. So when you're taking flash photography, it'll give you a white cast on the face. But by the same token, silica also helps to fill in fine lines and smooth the appearance of the skin. So there's some pros and cons to be weighed with it. At any rate, I will notate for you within the video which powders contain silica and which do not. On to the video. First powder I'm covering for you is L'Oreal's Infallible Pro Matte Pressed Powder. This one touts a 16-hour wear time. It does have a nice application and finish. I was very happy with it in that respect, but it did not go as long as it claims that it does, at least not for this oily face. It only went to about the 6-hour mark before it really started to break down on me. And then by the end of the 8 hours, it turned into a big old muddy mess. So I was personally not very happy with this one. Next up is Steely Style's Beautifully Matte Hypoallergenic Setting Powder. Beautiful application with this one. I didn't have any problems with it creating a white cast on the skin. Sometimes when you try white powders, they can make you look extra white, but this one did not do that, thankfully. And at the end of 8 hours, it looked really beautiful on the skin. It didn't break down, didn't move around the face, and I was really pleased with this one. Next up is LA Girl's Pro Face HD Matte Pressed Powder. And the one that I'm using here is in the shade Fair. And even though this is in the shade Fair, I did not feel like it matched me after application. It's kind of hard to see on camera. It was more apparent in person, but it looked a little tan on my skin. It wasn't what I would visualize as being fair. I was disappointed by that, and then after wearing it for 8 hours, it was extraordinarily shiny. I mean, really, really shiny. It broke down, it moved. Not happy with this one at all. So thumbs down from me for LA Girl's version. NYC also makes a loose face powder. This is their Smooth Skin Translucent Powder. Now this one blended right into the skin. I didn't have any problems with application whatsoever, and it did look like skin once I had applied it. And after wearing it for 8 hours, it still looked pretty good in my opinion. It was a little shiny, but the shine was manageable. I didn't feel like a grease ball with this one. Very pleased with it, especially for the price. Sonia Kashuk's Brightening Powder, and this is just one simple shade that's supposed to be a one-size-fits-all. It is a very finely milled powder, but I felt like it whitewashed my skin a little bit after I had applied it, and I felt like I had a white cast on my face. I didn't really care for the application myself. I found the powder to be rather, for lack of a better word, powdery, and it went everywhere. So I didn't have high hopes for this one, but I have to tell you, it really surprised me. After wearing it for 8 hours, I could not be more pleased with the longevity of the Sonia Kashuk powder. Did not turn my face oily or greasy. It ended up looking like a dewy finish on the skin. It was a really pretty glow, but I didn't feel like I had to go wash my face immediately. So I was very pleased with this one, much more than I thought I would have been after the initial application. NYX's Mineral Set It and Don't Fret It Matte Finishing Powder, and this is in the shade Light Medium. Great application with this one. I didn't find the powder to be too powdery. Didn't go all over the place. It held its own, and it looked like skin after application too. Now this one was rather shiny after 8 hours, and I had expected it to be a little more matte at the 8-hour mark. Usually NYX products don't disappoint me, but I was a little disappointed in this one. Maybelline's Master Fix Setting and Perfecting Loose Powder, and this is a relatively new addition in drugstores recently. This powder is also very finely milled, similarly to how the Sonia Kashuk one was that I talked about earlier, but it blended in with my skin a lot better than the Sonia Kashuk one did. And after wearing it for 8 hours, it didn't get anywhere near as shiny as some of the other powders that I've shared with you so far. But it did move on the face, and it looked cakey in certain areas if you look closely. It was okay in that respect, but not my favorite out of the bunch. One of the cheapest powders I'm sharing with you today is from Essence, and this is their All About Matte Fixing Compact Powder. Great application with this one. No white cast on the face, even though it is a white powder. And after wearing it for 8 hours, it didn't move around the face at all, but it did get rather shiny, more shiny than I would like, which is disappointing because I've talked about the Essence powder before in past videos, and I loved it. This is a new one that I recently purchased because I used up my last one, so I don't know if I got a dud or what. Next powder I have to share with you is Coty's Airspun Loose Face Powder. And this has been a favorite of mine since high school days, but I've never actually put it to the test. I do know that it wears really well, but I never really knew for how long. My only complaint with this powder, and it's been that way since high school, is the smell of it. It's just got a very overpowering perfume smell, almost like baby powder, but a little more pungent than that. And several people have told me in the past that they make an unscented version. I've never been able to find it. If you do find it, good for you. I would highly recommend getting that one because this one can be a little too much. But after wearing it for 8 hours, I felt like it held up real nicely on the face. I didn't have a lot of excess shine going on. It did move a little bit around my chin area, but despite that, I'm still pretty pleased with this powder. Last but not least is one from CoverGirl. This is their Professional Loose Powder in the shade Translucent Fair. I like the application with it. It's your typical translucent powder. It doesn't have a scent, thankfully. Blends right into the skin. And after wearing it for 8 hours, it looked pretty good. It wasn't great, but the shine was manageable. I didn't feel like a overzealous grease ball at the end of the day. But if you look closely here at the after 8 hour shot, you can see a little cakiness going on. And this is another one like the Maybelline powder where I'm on the fence with it. I don't really know how I feel about it. So out of all the powders I reviewed for you today, the top 3 best ones out of the bunch for me would have to be the one from Sonia Kashuk, Steely Style, and NYC. Highly recommend any one of these. The worst 3 out of the bunch would have to be the NYX one, the LA Girl one, and the L'Oreal powder. Not impressed with any of these. So if you've tried any of these powders out, let me know what your experiences have been with them, or if there's a powder that has become your go-to from the drugstore that I did not mention today, please feel free to share yours below also. Don't forget to subscribe for more Frugal Fridays in the future, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great weekend.